Alright Game Masters, welcome to the adventure walkthrough for the Dead Wars. This is a video walkthrough of this entire Game Master packet for Saturday's game. Hopefully you can listen to this on your commute while you're doing chores, or better yet, with the packet in front of you to help cut down on prep time. If you are a player, there are spoilers ahead in this video. Okay, let's talk about mechanics. There are a lot of mechanics in this 4-hour game, so let's break them down generally, and then we can get into the granular details of each section. First off, the act structure. There are 3 acts for this game. Act 1 is scouting, and that will take place from 4 to 4:50. The players will get to explore Kingdom Grand and gather information without combat. Act 2 is gathering and holding. From 5 to 6:45, tables will gather tactical points and then engage in combat and hold strategic locations. Act 3 is the final battle, and that's happening from 7 to 8. This will reveal alliances, betrayals, and culminate in a large battle, a combat encounter where the factions will use their TP to determine the winners. Executing times will be critical to the game to work. Executing times will be critical for the game to work. So there will be captains and audio announcements happening during the game to help keep things flowing. Let's talk about captains next, as they're a key structural part of the game. Captains are table runners. They serve multiple purposes. First off, they are there to collect information and pass along information. They will update you if you miss any announcement, as well as they can generally help with questions about the game, and they can help your players too, because they represent NPCs in the world. They are usually heroic NPCs that can lay waste to enemies and help unstick your players. When your table needs to report information, you can simply hold up a white note card that is provided, and if your players need help, or if they need to get the story moving along, hold up the colored note card. They can do heroic acts like heal players, kill enemies, or offer supplies. The hope is captains are used to move the game along or to get players out of a tough situation. It also allows you to fight with your gloves off, knowing that you have a safety feature, kind of a safety net for your players. You will also need to elect a player at the table to be the voice of the table. During the game, the captain may come by with in-game reports or need to get your table's opinion on a choice that needs to be made. Instead of interrupting your game, we want to pull the voice away from the table for a bit. They can meet with the captain and meet with other voices and collaborate. This should mean your game should be interrupted while the voices are talking. Your table's voice should be someone who is aware of the game and paying attention, and they can best represent your table in your choices. Let's talk about table-to-table communication and game updates. We have a speaker system set up across the mall, as well as a live stream that is showing on our YouTube channel. Also, this year, we are FM broadcasting across the mall. We are doing everything we can to balance the sound levels in the mall, but honestly, this venue wasn't really built for big games like this in mind. If possible, either bring a radio or a cell phone with a radio app downloaded, or a cell phone that you can watch the live stream on. It may even help to have an earbud in, or have one of your players with an earbud in listening to the live stream or the radio app. That way, when announcements are given, you can guarantee your table is staying up to date. I'm excited to unveil our live game update app. By going to this website, you and your table will see in real time what is happening to the other players' scores, what locations are being held by what factions, and who is winning or losing. This link will be provided at the tables and at registration as well. The best part is, this should work on any cell phone or tablet without downloading any app. Let's give a brief final description of the different factions real quick. There are 5 factions: the Protectors of the Old Gods, the Unbound, the Arcane Registry, Nature's Pathway, and the Industrialists. In the player packet is the rules for your player's faction's abilities. Each faction has a unique group mechanic that allows the players to play strategically as a group and reward them for working together. Have your players keep track of their resources and use of their abilities. This shouldn't be a burden on you to run. This should be for your players to use if they want to. Okay, with the general information out of the way, let's dive into Kingdom Grand and see what the game has to offer for us. In Act 1, your players will be able to explore Kingdom Grand. There are 10 important locations in Kingdom Grand. Each faction has their own HQ base, and then there are 5 extra auxiliary locations as well. Before we get into each location, I want to point out the formula for each location. For the faction's HQ base, there is the same structure of encounters, though each one is flavored uniquely for the faction. For example, each HQ has a protected barracks. That will be hard to break into. Doing so will reveal information that the faction is trying to keep hidden, as well as reward valuable loot. Each HQ also has a friendly, a neutral, and a hostile NPC. The friendly and neutral NPC will be able to help the players and give hints, and the hostile NPC will only show up if players are causing trouble in the area. Every HQ follows this formula. 3 NPCs, a barracks that is guarded and has kind of a puzzle or challenge to break into. And there's a reward and extra information if achieved. The auxiliary locations are much simpler to explore. Most don't even have an NPC, and instead they are a location that poses a tactical advantage in Act 2 that can be scouted now. Each location has a tactical advantage for being controlled. This is stated in the packet, and I will also state them here as well. So let's get into it. The development square is controlled by Nature's Pathway. It was once a factory district. However, it has now been overtaken and overgrown by natural and magical plants. Here, there are 3 NPCs for Nature's Pathway, as well as their barracks, where they are developing their ultimate weapon, the Life Tree and Spore Connection. The Life Tree will be able to set routes around the whole continent, allowing for teleportation and instant messages. It will also allow for the creation of the Spore Connection. In short, those connected to the Life Tree share pain. If an enemy attacks you, they will also take damage. Controlling the development square will give every table in that faction +1 AC for Act 3. The barracks is guarded by patrols as well as hidden mushrooms. A druid or ranger knowing the spell Shillelagh will be able to get past the mushrooms. Otherwise, an enchanted piece of wood from one of the faction members will also work. The mushrooms will trigger, putting anyone to sleep if a character gets too close without the wood or the spell active. If a guards spot the players, or if they are caught sleeping, they will be escorted out of the base. The Creed District is controlled by the Protectors of the Old Gods. The Creed District is housing most of the refugees of the war. Yeah, the gilded halls and temples are now crowded and overrun. Again, 3 NPCs are set in this location, as well as the barracks. The Protectors have a stairway to heaven, which allows for teleportation across the city. They are also developing it to turn it into a divine gate, allowing angels, demons, and possibly gods to step into our mortal world. Controlling the Creed District will slowly heal TP to the faction that controls it. The barracks in the Creed District is guarded by patrols as well as glowing orbs. When approaching the base, a glowing orb will float over the character's head. The orb will search for any weapons. Even a hidden dagger can be sensed by the orb. If any character approaches the barracks with any conventional weapons, an alarm will be triggered and the party will be caught and escorted away. All right, on to the next location. The East Port is controlled by the Industrialists. They were once exiled from Grand, and now they have returned on their battle barge. They control the port and have set up their barracks on the barge. Again, 3 NPCs in this location. The Industrialists are developing crystal technology, some of which has been seen in previous Dead Wars. This energy source will be able to power terrible machines and explosive devices. The faction also controls the East Port, which will give a bonus, a fresh shipment of supplies at the start of Act 3 to whatever faction who holds the this location. The barracks is protected by patrols and metal devices in the water. Small floating tracer balls are attracted to any magical auras, as well as metal weapons. Even a monk with a fisk that can deal magical damage can be detected. If the tracer orbs come into contact with a player, it will freeze them in place, leading for them to get caught. All right, the rebuilds are controlled by the Unbound. Hastily built, repaired, these are ramshackled buildings that are misshapen and still showing signs from the previous Dead Wars. The Unbound have an underground barracks, which they use to travel around Kingdom Grant, and sewer systems as well. They are developing a hero serum. It is a temporary boosting drug that enhances the mortal's fighting capabilities. The faction that controls the rebuilds will be able to gain the alert feat. Players will also be able to freely place their characters anywhere on the battle map in the final encounter. Their barracks is hidden deep in the underground sewers. Players will need to pass a series of perception or investigation checks to find the tunnels in the first place. After being found, players will have to continue passing checks or risk getting caught and then tossed out of the sewers. On to the Scriptorium. The Scriptorium is controlled by the Arcane Registry. A large foreboding tower protected by magical enchantments is where the Registry holds its barracks as well as its weapon. The Arcane Registry is working on accessing the magic between the worlds, a near limitless source of power, allowing access to terrible magic that hasn't been seen in this world. The Scriptorium also controls the Arcane Cannon. At the start of Act 3, they will unleash the cannon, dealing 15% damage to any one faction. And I should say, any faction that controls this location will get that benefit. Lastly, the Scriptorium barracks itself is located in the tower. Approaching the tower will cause a living glyph, a magical ball of changing runes, to approach the player. The living glyph will only allow characters to pass if they are concentrating on a spell. Otherwise, an alarm will be raised and the players will be caught. During Act 1, if possible, avoid combat scenarios. Instead, there is a different way to punish your players if they get caught trying to break into an enemy's barracks. But use, like, fade to black. All right, everyone, you are just caught. Cutscene, you are now back into your location or back to your home base. In every HQ location, there is a hostile NPC, and they will be suspicious of the players, and if given any reason, will move to stop the players and kick them out of the area. This hostile NPC can mark the players as a high priority target. In short, if your table is marked as a high priority target by one faction, you as the game master can now use that faction as an antagonist against the party. They can show up in Act 2 to make things more complicated, or be the main enemy the players fight against in Act 2 and 3. Play the faction as remembering the party, possibly passing along communications to specifically track and thwart the party. Getting marked as a high priority target should increase the tension of the game, but don't go overboard and ruin the game. Players should still be able to complete their objectives, but now they have a force working against them. There are five auxiliary locations as well that I will go over super briefly. There's an infirmary. This location allows the creation of health potions and gives you 50 TP to whatever faction holds it. There's a bank. This holds powerful magical items and is worth 200 TP to the claiming faction. The waterways is a key structure to the kingdom and is worth 100 tactical points for their faction. The Adventurers Guild Hall is 250 extra TP for the faction holding that location. And then you have the Grand Armory, a small 50 tactical points for holding this location as well. Quick note on travel. Each faction has their own way to fast travel around the city. Nature's Pathway can teleport between trees. The Arcane Registry can teleport in and out of their tower. Protectors can use their stairway to heaven, walking up the stairs, walking down to their location, or walking up invisible stairs and then returning back to the bridge. The Unbound will use back alleyways and sewers, and the Industrialists will allow their arcane automaton, their friendly mech, to teleport them where they need to go. Now, fast travel shouldn't be weaponized, so players can't use it as bombing runs or smash and grab tactics, as it would be too risky for the faction to allow that because it might open themselves up for a counterattack. The main focus is to allow players to get to where they need to quickly. That is a lot of information for Act 1, but don't worry about it. Since each faction has the same formula with a different coat of paint, understanding 3 NPCs and a puzzle will get you to the barracks, and that's all you really need to understand. As for your table, your voice will meet with the other voices to compare notes and get all the information out, so your table will have all its needed information at the end of Act 1. While you're playing through Act 1, your captain will meet with you and the table's voice. They will consult with your tables on what other factions you might want to ally with and align with. Allying with another faction will increase your chances of winning. However, it also opens your faction up to betrayal. Your captains will ultimately have the final say in what the faction allies with or who the faction allies with, but your table's opinion matters. Your voice will come back with information from the other tables to share with your party. All right, let's get into Act 2. There are 2 important parts of Act 2. The first part is completing objectives and farming tactical points, and then holding a location. That's the 2 parts. In Act 2, we created a bunch of different objectives. Each faction has their own exclusive objective, helping them further their plans, and then there is a bunch of smaller objectives that can be completed as the table wants. Make these objectives clear to your players. They can be an NPC giving orders or an apparent problem in the area, but it shouldn't be hard to get your players completing or starting objectives. For the faction exclusive objective, again, they follow a similar formula. The formula is to go to another location in the kingdom, or possibly a few locations, and either retrieve an item or plant an item there. Each faction has their own flavor to it. Nature's Pathway is planting mushrooms, Industrialists are setting up lenses, and the Protectors are collecting essences of their gods. At first, things should be easy. However, partway through their objective, an enemy faction, or even the faction that marked them as a high priority target, can show up. This will make things more stressful, as the other faction will try to get in the way and stop the players. Then the challenge becomes completing their mission by either using stealth, persuasion, brute force, or distraction. Combat is possible at this part, but I would not recommend it if possible. And instead, if your players roll poorly or make bad choices, just deal raw damage, damage their gear, find some other way to have a consequence. The latter half of the game is full of combat. I want the first half of the game to incorporate the other aspects of D&D. Now, I'll go quickly over each faction's unique objective just to get us up to speed. For Nature's Pathway, the players must plant 4 mushrooms in different locations around Kingdom Grand. Of course, while planting the mushrooms, an enemy faction will appear in their location, forcing them to figure out how to deal with this other faction. The Protectors must visit 4 temples and collect the essences of their god. Each god has their own essence, and each temple has its own fun flavor. While they are visiting the god of weather, a battle will have erupted outside of the temple from an opposing faction. Players will have to figure out how to get in and out of the temple while avoiding conflict. The Industrialists will need to set up a focusing lens. The lens has a magical artifact similar to a rod of holding, allowing the lens to be locked in place. It takes some time to focus the lens, and when they arrive to the location needed to set up the lens, of course, there will be an enemy faction already working on their own objective there. The Arcane Registry needs to carve magic runes across the kingdom. They need 3 of them. 2 of them can be set in any location, but 1 has to be set nearby an enemy camp, and you can see why that could be difficult. The Unbound need to deliver a hero serum to other squads. They have 4 cases to deliver, and the cases are fragile. The final squad, of course, is stuck in a tough situation, pinned down and hiding from an enemy faction. Now, players don't have to engage in these quests, as there are other quests available. They can rally citizens. This is a role-play persuasion minigame to convince citizens to help their faction. They can also smuggle supplies by getting either stolen goods or delivered goods from one part of the kingdom to another. Of course, an enemy faction will appear to make that more tough. Lastly, they can gather intel by stealing information from an enemy reporting station. Each faction, again, has their own flavorful reporting station, be it a grove of whispering flowers, pneumatic tubes, or talking statues. If time allows, players can also craft extra health potions to give to their other tables. Now, each table can only score 30 tactical points per table, so there isn't a need to rush through the objectives to try to farm extra TP. And if you finish early, feel free to do the other objectives just for fun and to get their in-game benefits. The other important part of Act 2 is holding a location. Around 6 p.m., halfway through the game, a warning will go out to the tables, telling them to prepare to hold a location. Your captains will work with your table's voice on planning what location the table should hold. Obviously, if your players want to hold a different location, they can. The captain will try to coordinate with the other tables to come up with a strategy to win. However, this does not take away from your table's choice. Knowing your GMing skills, try to give yourself at least 30 minutes for this combat section. To run combat, you need to use the generic map, and then a map. To run this combat, use a generic map or map of one of the key locations. Then use the hold objective map and add it to that map. If your table is holding a faction HQ location, I recommend revealing only half the map that is available, just in case that location is the same location you used to fight in Act 3. Players will start their party on one side of the map, and the location map will be on the other side of the map. Players will have 4 rounds to enter their location and have a majority of their player inside the sandbag fortification. You should start with 5 grunts and 2 ranged soldiers and 1 hero already defending the location. Players will have to get in close and fight them out. Round 2, more enemies will spawn around the edges of the map trying to help their squad, and at round 3, spawn 4 more grunts and another ranged soldier. If at the end of round 4, the majority of the players are inside the sandbag fortification, the location is secured, the enemy troops will flee, and your party will be safe. The party will be unable to short rest, but that will be coming soon, so don't worry. If your party doesn't finish round 4 by 6:45, or if a majority of the party is not in the sandbag ring at the end of the round, then your table does not score the location. Make sure your players understand this. It will increase the pressure of the encounter. Captains will not be able to fight the enemies during this encounter, but they will be able to heal and support. From 6:45 to 7:20 will be a break. You can stretch and get your players ready. You can also role play the preparation of getting ready for the final battle. Let your NPCs that your players have connected with, make them show up and get ready to help for the fight. We will be calculating TP as well as alliances while this is happening, and this will have consequences at the start of Act 3. If your table held a location and your faction has the majority army in that location, then congratulations. Your faction scores that location, gains those benefits, and gets those tactical points. However, if your table held a location, but your faction was unsuccessful in scoring that location, your hard work will not all go to waste. Instead, your players will get an extra secret ability, Grim Determination. Now, this is supposed to be a secret ability. We don't really want players purposefully dying to trigger this, but do make sure to knock down your players to trigger it. Grim Determination triggers when a character is knocked unconscious. On their turn, they gain 10 HP. All of their attacks gain advantage, and they deal an extra 10 force damage with each attack. This is a comeback mechanic for tables that didn't get to score. Okay, we are finally on to Act 3. This is it. The captains and the head dungeon masters will have tallied the points, so you will have a good idea of how well your faction is doing. Maybe you got betrayed by another faction, or maybe you betrayed another faction. This final act is all-out war against the other factions. Your table will get to choose which HQ to attack. Each HQ has its own unique map with its own unique battle objective. During combat, your players will try to destroy the battle objective. Doing so will grant you additional tactical points. Additionally, the enemies you fight will also grant points when they are killed. Your goal is to score as many points as possible. And as you score these points and report them, every point scored will subtract TP from the faction that your table is fighting against. All the TP that every faction has worked to gain now is pretty much your life points. 710 to 720, we will do a final rally to pump everyone up. 720 dice roll. You, as the game master, will be playing the enemy faction your table decides to fight against. Each faction has waves of enemies to spawn, as well as environmental effects and extra mechanics. I'm not going to break down every enemy stat block, but we did make the stat blocks pretty simple to run, with basic abilities and rules to them. Each combat will follow a formula. Place the 4 pages of the location together to form a single large battle map. You'll note that this is included with a combat objective on each map. With the exception of the Unbound, they were supposed to have a hero serum cache, and I forgot to put it in. My bad. Anyways, place your players on the farthest side away from the objective and place wave 1 of the enemies on the map. Every 2 rounds, new enemies can spawn in on the edges of the map, according to the faction notes in this section. Lastly, there are some exciting environmental effects that will randomly happen, making the combat feel more chaotic and more epic than ever. Each faction has elite units that should be a challenge, a real challenge to take down on top of the other enemies. We expect each party to be able to take down 1 to 2 of these elite units. There's also a total cap to damage that can be dealt by each table, so don't forget the Grim, and lastly, don't forget the Grim Determination ability. At 8 p.m., we stop. At 8 p.m., dice stop rolling and we calculate final points. This is where we also roll our Vengeful Strike and our Last Stand. If your faction has been defeated, you and your table will roll one final roll, a Vengeful Strike. Roll a d20. Everyone at the table rolls a d20, and you calculate the total damage that is done, and you report that to your captain. If your faction is still alive, instead, you do a final rally. Again, everyone rolls a d20 at the table, and you calculate how many TP gets added to your final score. All right, that's it, my friends. This is the end of the game. Make sure to report to your captains your final tallies, and then tune in on the live stream, the radio, or the stage to get the final narration and the results of the game. A few more notes. When you register, there will also be a scorecard. Track on your scorecard things like, you're going to want to track on your scorecard fun things like how many nat 20s your table rolled, or how many nat 1s were rolled, how many people died at your table, or how much healing was done. Make sure to track these and turn these into your captains, because we will be giving prizes out to all of them. All right, that was a lot to digest. I hope this video was helpful. Please enjoy. Please, if you have any questions, hit me up on the Discord. I am keeping an eye and trying to reply to those as I can. Thank you.